I suppose it is my pleasure now to close out the entire unconference that has been running for nearly 24 hours at this point in 10 minutes. So we just wanted to say goodbye and give a little bit of a recap of what the unconference was, why we did it, and what it contained, just for those of you who might have missed some of the other Continual AI sessions that we hosted. So if you're not familiar with what Continual AI actually is, we're an official nonprofit research organization, and we have a large open community on continual learning research, right? Our core mission here is to fuel continual learning research by putting a bunch of researchers together in touch with one another and offering a platform where we can share and discuss ideas. So this includes our Slack chat, where we have a lot of open discussions going on, as well as things like this unconference, that bring the entire community together to have a bigger mission. So what do we actually do? Some of our initiatives beyond the unconference are our Avalanche library, which we had a tutorial on yesterday, discussing. The Avalanche library basically is a library for continual learning. It has a bunch of baselines and benchmarks for getting quickly started on continual learning steps. We have a bunch of baselines in there, and they're easy to experiment with. So if you're a new PhD student, this is a great way to get started. We also have a bunch of seminars that are now available on our YouTube channel. So sometimes we host reading groups or meetups to discuss different topics in continual learning. And we also help organize and sponsor several events that you see at things like CVPR and other workshops. How we actually do it is through generous donations from membership fees and other Continual AI members who donate. So if you really enjoyed the content in this unconference, some of the donations that we've received in the past were actually able to help us buy the software and things that we needed for this. So I would really encourage you to go to DonorBox, and if you have a few dollars to spare, it might really help us. We also have generous sponsorships. So for example, this unconference itself was sponsored by the Taylor organization. And we also have voluntary work of many people, right? This is a nonprofit organization. All of us hosting this unconference are not paid to do this. We're doing it because we appreciate the continual learning community, and we want a way to bring all of us together. So that's how we were able to make this unconference free. So why the Continual AI Unconference, right? There's many other workshops, and there's a lot of conferences already happening. We thought it was a fundamental time to bring something specific to continual learning to a diverse audience, right? Not only is this unconference running for free, right? We're also promoting it across the world, right? We made it run for 24 full hours so that everybody in every time zone across the world would have at least one session that they could attend. So what is it? I'm sure most of you have attended a session by now, but it was a full day unconference, and we really wanted to focus on accessibility and inclusiveness. So that was our biggest thing, right? Running this for 24 full hours, making it free. So literally there were no limitations beyond just having some internet connection that you could join and, absorb or contribute to some of the content being presented. We really wanted to focus on scientific quality through active dialogue. So this came in two forms, right? We had original talks, so people could submit a one-page abstract about a talk that they wanted to give, and those were presented in those paper sessions, as well as pre-registration articles that were submitted, and I'll talk a bit more about this in a bit. We also had mentoring sessions yesterday to give advice to newcomers to the field or more junior researchers who are looking to take that next step. So pre-registration, if you're not familiar with what it is or why we should do it, it's basically the idea that exists in many other scientific disciplines, where you basically come up with some research question or hypothesis, and then you write a paper proposal about how you would actually study whether or not this hypothesis is true, right? So you outline the methods you're going to use to validate it and some experiments that you're going to run to validate it. Once this proposal is accepted, after being reviewed by a committee, you actually can then run the experiments and report the results of those, whether they're negative or positive, right? So it kind of reduces some of this bias of only publishing papers of things that work, right? So we're really hitting home the scientific rigor and making sure that we're doing science for the sake of studying hypotheses and research-driven questions, instead of just, getting 2% better and just hacking a bunch of things together in an engineering way. So what does science get from this? We get a healthy mix of both positive and negative results, because this means not only the things that work get published, but also maybe some of the things that didn't work. We can also avoid wasteful replications, because these negative results are actually being published to tell people, hey, I tried this, it didn't work, right? And then papers are evaluated based on scientific interest, not whether or not they beat the previous best method by 2%, right? I also think if you're starting out in a PhD journey, right, or something like this, it's a really nice way to, think about what are interesting questions and kind of really spend time in the scientific process of setting up those experiments and those methods. What makes sense for this problem, right? And then, detailing that in a nice way. So pre-registration, in terms of our process, we had 2 stages. So in the first stage, basically proposals were submit, and we had a reviewing committee that reviewed those and gave feedback to the authors. We had originally 10 submissions, of which we accepted 6. And basically all 6 of those papers gave some talk in the last 24 hours. And then we have a second stage where basically the authors have about 6 months to run the experiments and everything that they outlined in those proposals, and then submit a final paper to be reviewed yet again before being published in PMLR. We also had contributed talks, right? So people submit 1-page abstracts about things that they would like to talk about. We really discouraged people just talking about a single paper, and we were really looking for more vision-based talks, right? Like create a vision for what you think is an interesting problem in continual learning, and how did you approach it in many different ways, or how would you approach it in the future, and things like this. So we had 13 accepted talks that were presented over 6 different sessions. They covered many different topics, as you can see here, things like deep continual learning, different applications, and even some neuro-inspired talks. So this wouldn't have happened without the help of many, many different people. So here we have the 6 general chairs. We conceived the notion of the conference, and we've really put a lot of work into, making sure this happens and being around for the last 24 hours. But we are not alone. We did this with a team of many different people. So up here, you'll see we had 3 program chairs that were really crucial in helping us put the program together. We had 3 pre-registration chairs who really did a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of making sure those pre-registration articles were properly reviewed. There were meta reviews, there was feedback, finding reviewers, all of these important things. We had 2 DEI chairs who helped us draft a code of conduct and actually talk to some of the affinity groups in various different conferences and things that you see to try to get feedback about our conference. We also had 2 talk chairs to validate the quality of the talks. And then we have several outreach chairs who also helped us promote the unconference on things like Twitter and LinkedIn. And then we also had tech chairs who were super crucial in making sure that our website was up to date and contained all of the necessary information. We also had a steering committee. So these are more senior members of the continual learning community who gave us some feedback on our initial idea and conception of what the unconference was, the idea of doing pre-registration paper articles and things like this. So if you attended in the last 24 hours, maybe you've seen some of these statistics go up. After the final count is all done, we've had more than 450 people that registered as attendees for the unconference. So this is super great. We were very pleased to see the success of this. And this is all of the content that we covered in the last 24 hours. And we will be making the recordings publicly available on our YouTube channel. So stay tuned to our mailing list or our Twitter in the coming weeks if you want to see those. So I won't spend any more time at this point. I think we've hit the official 24-hour mark, so this is awesome. But I just want to say thank you to the entire community for coming together to help support us. This unconference wouldn't have happened over the last 24 hours without you submitting talks or agreeing to give invited talks and things like this. So it's really put together by the community for the community. So thank you very much. We're also really happy to take any feedback you have about the unconference. What worked well, what didn't work well. If you just have some thoughts to say, feel free to let us know. You can drop an email to our unconference email, and all of the general chairs will get a notification about that. You can also, if you really want to, give us a donation to help support Continual AI in the future. And again, I just want to close out by saying thank you to our sponsor, Taylor. So that's all that I have to say about the unconference. Thank you all so much again for attending and staying with us for some of you over 12 hours, which is super impressive. So thank you very much.